Welcome to another episode of We Surf Podcast. I'm your host Kwame, and with me is, as always, is my dual host Nigel Lewis. Nigel, how's it going?
I'm good, Kwame. How are you? Welcome, everyone.
I am great. It is starting to get warm. Daylight saving time just kicked in. You and I were talking I think I called you like last weekend, and right away you're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm great. What's happening?" I could hear how happy you are right now because it hit like 60 degrees or 65 degrees in New York.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I was so happy about that. But yeah, it's time to get good. It's time to get good.
yeah. You can tell we're both children of the sun.
Yeah, yes,
So,
absolutely,
yeah.
100%. So with us today is, it's not often that you actually get to meet a hero. But I think that this gentleman that we have with us today, I classify him at least as a hero. With us today is Gregory Rachal, the president and co-founder of the Black Surfers Collective. Gregory, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Greg, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.
It's so Greg and I met for the first time 2 years ago at the ISTO conference in Puerto Rico, and here's ISTO just bringing people together because I've met so many amazing people from this, and Greg and I were one of the people. I met Greg through there, and from that point on, he and I have just always kept in contact and been just have like side conversations and it's not a every week we talk, but when we do talk, I think we have some pretty deep conversations. And I figured, this is definitely a good platform, and we want to have you on the platform, especially for those of our listeners who are here on the, specifically on the East Coast, who may not be quite aware of just the great work that you and your organization is doing out there. So again, thank you for joining us. Um,
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
so if you can, let's just jump right into it. Can you can you share a little bit about your personal journey? Not necessarily starting off with the BSc, but your personal journey of surfing. How did you get into surfing? And at what point did you figure, hey, I'm going to spend X amount of years submerging myself in the salty water of the West Coast?
That's right. Well, uh, I got through into surfing through my skateboarding, which is, in the 70s. I'm 63 years old, so I was running around in the beginning days of skateboarding, ramps, pools, skate parks back in the 70s and early 80s. And we came upon a lot of guys that were skaters that were surfers. And me and a crew of brothers that I grew up with, we decided to jump in. So we started surfing probably 75, 76, right around there. In those days, you could go to a shop and find a used wetsuit, a used surfboard, and that's what we did. Young guys just pushed ourselves into whitewater and figured out how to make it happen. And as we got older and guys started driving, we were able to drive ourselves around to different beaches, which was cool. But in those days, I didn't really know of any other black surfers, to tell you the truth. It was just me and my boys. It was about six or seven of us. As we got more cars, sometimes we'd have two cars a cat, sometimes we'd ride the bus, whatever we had to do to get down to the beach. I grew up in what would be called South Central LA, the Crenshaw district. So I'm a good 5 miles from the coast. So
Wow.
anything we had to do, we did to make sure we got there.
All right.
Yeah, so okay, so I'm going to stop complaining when I have to walk up half a block to get to the boardwalk because I'm like, oh, I don't want to walk that far anymore. I don't want to do this. But 5 miles coming and just I'm not even knowing how you're going to get there. That's pretty intense. Um, no, so
Yeah.
so what was the impetus then taking it from that and then forming the Black Surfers Collective?
Well, I'll go back a little bit. I kind of got out of surfing when in the mid 80s. I kind of moved into more of an outdoor thing. I was doing a lot of climbing, backpacking, mountaineering, that kind of thing. And always had surfing in my mind. I would probably go out maybe once or twice a year. I had friends that had boards, wetsuits, that kind of thing. You never lose it, right? You always
Mhm.
want to be back in the water, but it wasn't my main thing. I was doing triathlons. I was doing all kinds of outdoor activities. And in the late 80s, I got on the fire department. And when I did, I started to meet guys that were surfers. And so I got back in the water regularly in the late 80s, early 90s. And that's when I happened upon the Black Surfers Association. And that's where I met most of the brothers that were operating in LA that were surfers. And I didn't really wasn't familiar with them, but I got to know them, and we started doing things together. We started going on camping trips and surf meetups and that kind of thing, which was it was great, just having that connection with cats in the water. I had never really been in the water since I was a teenager with that many brothers and sisters that were in the water, and it was just an amazing time. Um, and what happened was we through Didon Kamathi, who was one of the founding members of Black Surfers Collective and a past president of the Black Surfing Association. He was doing work in the community at beach gatherings. He would bring out his own boards and teach people to surf and encourage them to get in the water. And he asked us to come down and help out. And we started to do that. And you start to see the need, and you start to see the promise of just putting more and more people in the water. And that was really the start of what became the Black Surfers Collective.
Nice, nice. Nice.
Yeah, no, I appreciate hearing the story. I think unlike Kwame, I'm not as familiar with the association, with the collective. I'm sorry, but I love hearing the similarities, I guess, to some
Yeah.
things that's happening on the East Coast. I'm from the Caribbean, so it's a little bit different of an entry to surfing for me. But I'm always amazed, and I actually had a question that was kind of a little bit different, but what did that feel like for you being in the water with like going in as a group? And I know skating is a lot like that. Like normally you skate with your crew and you go hit up spots and you kind of plan a day around going to the park or a spot or something like that. Um, but I must think it must have felt pretty interesting because I've surfed the West Coast a bit, and usually when I go with by myself, or with some other friends in the
Yes.
industry. But what did that feel like going in the water when, like, what was the perception of you guys? Like,
Yeah.
what did that feel like walking in with like 6 or 7 black men,
Yeah,
with
because
surfboards jumping in the
yeah,
water?
because even like for me, like the times I've been on the East Coast, on the West Coast, excuse me, there have been times like unless we plan it,
Right.
it's not I'm usually the only one
Right.
out there. Like, I remember one time I went to Manhattan Beach and I walked into this store, Greg, and as I went in, the guy looks at me, goes, "Oh yeah, I remember you," and I was like, "From what?" He goes, "Ah, dude, there are not that many guys walking around
I know.
Manhattan Beach
I
with
know.
locks and a surfboard who
I
look like you.
know.
Trust
Yeah.
me, I remember you." Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
Nigel, that's a really good
and
question.
and really for me, it's during that time, right? Because
Yeah,
I think that we all know that there was definitely a lot of just tensions going on, in the early '80s, and between communities. So I'm curious to learn a little bit more about that.
It was, when I was a teenager, it could be contentious.
Mm,
Surfing can be pretty selfish in its own way. We've all known the localism that happens, and, showing up with 5 or 6 brothers all at once, it gives you a little bit of comfort, when you're paddling out with 5 or 6 of your friends. The lineup would kind of separate. They didn't know what to do with us, to tell you the truth.
gotcha.
Other than the cats that we skated with that knew us well. If we were skating, if we were surfing with the guys that we skated with at like Bay Street and Santa Monica, places like that, people knew us, and so we were more than welcomed into the lineup because they felt like we had a kinship through our skating. But when we went other places, up and down the coast, it could be pretty different. These were, like you said, the times were different than they are today. The numbers were very few. In those days, I think pretty much if I didn't come with a brother, I didn't see a brother in the water.
Right.
mm,
And so it's very much like what you've experienced, both of you, being on the West Coast. Even today, I can say today, because I'm in the water pretty regularly, that I see many more brothers and sisters, people of color, more women, more just a more diverse surf culture happening. But it's still incremental, right? It's not
Right.
Yeah.
like it's just, everywhere. It's remarkable, but it's happening, but it's not at the numbers that we would wish it to be, right?
Yeah.
And still sticking on the times when you had just started and you were going out with your fellow brothers. Um, what, if anything, were you hearing from people from other people of color who are not surfers? I mean, I can imagine that you guys get out there and, or even as you're walking back, they're probably looking at you like, "What are you doing?" So, if any, was it
Yeah,
like, were you
yeah.
just looked at like, okay, nothing was said, and they were just like raise an eyebrow, or did you guys hear anything? Share some stories.
I could say that our surfing adventure was really an expansion of our skating adventure, right?
Mm.
A couple brothers, five, six brothers riding the bus with big skateboards and backpacks and heading out to skate banks and pools and whatever we're doing. You know how it is in the community. People are going to look at you and say, "Oh, you want to be white? You're doing this. We don't do that." It was the same thing, riding, walking around with surfboards, right? They're going to say that. Um, what I found later on, though, was that more of those people actually wanted to know what it was like.
Right.
Um, when you're in a group situation, people want to ostracize you and be a part of the group. But if you get them on a one-on-one, they're more likely to ask you, uh, "Hey, what's that like? I've always wanted to try it.
Mm.
How do I get involved?" And so many conversations like that have happened both from when I was younger to when I was back into surfing into the 90s and the early 2000s. That again, that's really the impetus for really getting out in the community and starting the Black Surfers Collective. We brought people together. We brought equipment to the beach. We really started to do that outreach that brought underrepresented communities out to the beach and let them know that there's people like them in the water and that will be there with you to support you and in your adventure.
Yeah. That's incredible to hear. So again, because I'm not as familiar with the collective as Kwame is, what do you guys do essentially? Is it just introducing people to the sport of surfing? Is it more involved with the collective? Tell me a little bit about
It is.
yeah.
Um, what we started off doing was just doing surf lessons. And what we've been active for the last 12 years, 13 years, this is our 13th year. Um, we've evolved into kind of a community active organization. We are providing free swim lessons.
Wow.
We are working with different environmental groups. We are partnering with different groups and bringing youth and families out to the beach and letting them share in the whole outdoor beach lifestyle, teaching them about the ecology of the coastline, creating stewards of the land. So many of our people that grow up in different communities are so far away from the coast or the outdoor lands or something that they've never really experienced that it's important that we bring them back and we support them in experiencing that to create a connection point. And doing that just opens their mind and their sense of adventure. If they stay in the water, that's great. If they want to turn and maybe do backpacking, mountaineering, whatever, go out on a mountain bike, go skiing, go snowboarding. This is really what it's about. It's about sharing with our people the fun of the outdoors and letting them know it's there for them. And we do that through surfing and the beach lifestyle.
Got it. Okay.
Nice. So you guys also, one thing that you see when you go to your website is very prevalent, Nick Gabaldon Day.
Uh,
So I know you guys actually, so did you start that? Not Nick Gabaldon Day, but did you start, whether were you the first ones to start doing surf lessons or trying to bring the community out on that day? Or is this something that came out of something? And can you give us a little bit of the history and the present, the past, the present, and where you see it like it going for the future?
We actually did start Nick
Okay,
Gabaldon Day. That was part of
nice.
the beginning of Black Surfers Collective. The Inkwell Beach, which was a historically black beach where they had it roped off for blacks to enjoy the beach at that time in Santa Monica. Um, we had a plaque that is there at that beach, and it's a monument to that history of Jim Crow in Los Angeles, and there are a number of beaches. You have them back there, I believe, in Virginia and different places, but we had a couple here in LA, the Inkwell being one of them. Nick was a historic figure that grew up in Santa Monica and actually learned to surf at the Inkwell, and he learned to surf in the late 40s, early 50s, and died in the early 50s surfing in Malibu. And when we found out about his history, it seemed like the perfect vehicle to uh, present the Black Surfers Collective, work with different organizations. We partnered with Heal the Bay, the City of Santa Monica, Surf Bus Foundation, the Nature Conservancy. All these organizations came together to help us put this on. And it's been going on now for 12 years. And I think this will be our 13th. And it celebrates Nick. We talk about Nick's history, and which is our connection to the ocean, right? He's one of the first documented his surfers of color in the Los Angeles area, and so we really got behind that, and through these organizations and through the county of Los Angeles, we brought kids from and families from all over underrepresented communities in LA, and we've been doing it now for a lot of years. We end up putting about 200 people in the water on that day.
Oh,
We'll
wow.
have a paddle out in Nick's honor and honoring any other surfers or family members that have passed on
Hmm.
for the past year. And we provide lunch, we provide swag, we provide ecological schooling, and a trip to the aquarium. So it's just an all over great day, and it's been growing every year. And we're just going to keep it going as long as we possibly can.
And when is Nick Gabaldon Day exactly?
It will be June 9th, I
June
believe,
9th.
this year.
Okay,
Yeah.
Nice.
so listeners and viewers, if you are out in LA, if you're out in California and reach out and you are available June 9th, you know you're available on June 9th. When you're available on June 9th, get in contact, and I have not been, but I've seen the pictures and I've seen the photos and the videos and on Instagram, and it definitely is something that it is on my list at some point. I definitely want to get out there just to be part of it, because the community, and I can feel the community energy through Instagram. So I can imagine what it's like when you're actually there with your feet in the sand and smelling the salt water and talking to people about it. So yeah, if you are around, then definitely I think it's something you should hit up.
Yeah, and actually, I'm putting the 6 degrees of separation together now, and it's starting to come to me. So I worked for Nike for quite a few years in Nike Action Sports, and they did that video 12 miles north about Nick Gabaldon, and now the face comes together. And I remember when we premiered it. You're in the video, correct?
I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Now it's all starting to kind of come together here, but yeah, I was I mean, I did not know about Nick until I saw the movie, which
Mhm.
again, sometimes some things are just politely left out in this country. But um, I was very impressed and super proud to be a surfer after hearing his story
Yeah,
and seeing what he had to go through just to do something that he loved,
yeah,
as simple as just surfing.
yeah.
It really made me feel, I remember watching it and feeling like almost like carrying that on,
Hmm.
like needing to make sure that other kids that look like me and women and men and understand that there's a history
Yeah.
here, and that we need to be proud of it. So yeah, I it started to come together to me now that
Yeah, because this
yeah.
was this, I mean,
Yeah.
again, not to dwell too much on Nick because I know we have to, but I think it is worth it that he paddled. The reason the documentary is 12 miles north is because he had to
Yeah,
paddle for 12 miles roughly to get
to
to a
Malibu.
spot
Yeah,
to get to Malibu to surf. And, people may think, oh, yeah, it's just surfing. But to do that for the sport
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
activity that you love, it's not just, oh, I'm just going to do this. You actually had to jump in the water and paddle 12 miles in one direction, surf, then turn around and then paddle back in the other direction, So that really shows a kind of love for this activity and this sport that we all love, and we know what it's like and why we do this. And I think that that right there just shows the world just how amazing surfing is and can be, which is why I think everyone should try surfing at
yeah,
least
yeah.
once or six times, not just, oh yeah, it's just for this group of people, So again, Greg, kudos to
Right.
getting, people who don't have the necessary facilities just be able to jump in the water right away to be able to give that to them. So again, thank you for that.
It's hearing Nick's story, and as you said, Nike did the documentary on him, a short documentary on Nick. It really made me think about what the history of surfing is and what the history of surfing in Los Angeles is. And if Nick hadn't passed away so young, what would
Yeah,
our legacy be,
Hmm.
right? He was there in the beginning of surfing in Los Angeles when people were just starting to use it as a sport, and he was right there at the beginning. And then you wonder if he hadn't have passed away, would there have been a presence? Would we had more of a presence in it?
Right.
Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that he overcame Jim Crow, um, laws and more social mores to do what he loved to do and to be there with people. And supposedly he was well respected and accepted in the surf lineup. But look at everything he had to overcome to get there. And so it was just really a monumental thing. I didn't know about Nick, but when I heard about it, it was like kind of a no-brainer. Hey, let's do an event in Nick's honor, and it's just great, being able to tell his story and then do a paddle out in his honor
Mhm.
every year, and then just bring so many young people together and put them in the water and see the smiles on their faces. It's amazing.
Yeah. We may have to do one in Rockaway.
yeah, yeah. No, I actually think it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we might be hitting you up offline to try to see if we can get your template and do one in Rockaway,
Yeah,
because I think that a lot of people out there would appreciate that. It's the scene in Rockaway with it's a relatively newish surf area for people of color.
yeah,
So
Hmm.
I think that, it's something that we can all appreciate, So the more we can get the community together, it will definitely be a positive thing.
yeah, yeah. Um, um, how do you see, and this is more just collective questions. So I know you guys do a lot of work around LA. Is it your goal or vision that you can have the collective have a bigger impact than just LA? How do you envision the collective like developing over time?
Um, I would say to continue to do what we're doing, but also continue to expand. What we'd like to do and what we're planning on doing is more continual surf lessons, more evolved surf lessons, not just a one-day exposure. Maybe taking people from beginning surfers all the way through intermediate to a
Hmm.
supported program. We're also trying to work in some surf therapy programs and continue with our swim lessons. We also see the collective as kind of a hub. There's a number of organizations throughout Southern Cal, both in the LA area, up north and down south, San Francisco area, the Bay Area, and down into San Diego, that we tend to partner with when we can. And we see ourselves as kind of a hub. We'll work with these groups, put on different events. We try to stay in communication. When they have events, we try to go down and support them or up to support them. And I also want to have a presence in creating a supported Black surfing community as far as competitive surfing.
Hmm.
We all know how difficult that is. the people that are making it in surfing these days, there's coaching, there's equipment, there's all the things that are barriers to our community being in there. But what do we see? We see if we dedicate the time, we are quality surfers and can definitely compete on the highest levels. And it's just a matter of time before we start doing that. And one of the things that I see in the future is kind of creating again a hub, a communication line to where we're supporting these up and coming surfers throughout not just the West Coast, but the whole United States and maybe, even in the Caribbean, that we find out who they are and pool together our resources to support them to move forward. So it's kind of a two-pronged attack, right? Recreational surfing is where my love is, but I also want to see my brothers and sisters move forward. If it's in their drive to become a competitive surfer, I want to do my best to support that.
It's interesting you say that. I think you are the fourth person in close to 12 months or 14 months that I've spoken to about competitive surfing.
Hmm.
And one of the things that everyone says at the same time is we have the people out there. It's just people don't realize just how much it costs
Yeah,
to be a competitive surfer. It's not just, oh yeah, you show up one day and you just start. It's not like in the movies.
yeah.
It's not North Shore. You don't just show up in Hawaii,
And then some.
surf against Jerry Lopez and he goes, hey, howdy boy, and gives you a shaka and you take off. You have to pay for all these different contests. You have
Yeah,
to pay for your flights. You have to pay for your sponsors have to pay for your food, your lodging, your boards. Contests cost money to
yeah,
actually enter. And, a lot of that, one of the conversations I was having with someone, Ika Wilmot, and hope, he's planning to get him on the show as well, was why you don't see many surfers black surfers and surfers of color from other countries in the Olympics. Because we have the surfers, it's just they cannot afford to go off and, take off, months upon months to just
yeah.
qualify for it because people have day jobs and people have families and they need to be able to survive, but the talent is there. So no,
The
I
talent is
definitely
there.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you do see the countries that invest, and I'm thinking
Hmm.
about Brazil particularly. I mean, they kind of invest in their surfers
Yeah.
and and you see those guys are definitely on the stage and winning on the
Hmm.
stage. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good direction, to think about because from Barbados, there's amazing surfers in
Hmm.
Barbados, and there's a couple of them that you see pop up here and there, but should be way more consistent than
Yeah.
that for the amount of quality surfers that are there at a very high level
Yeah.
competing. Yeah, interesting.
No, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah,
I think
I
that.
it's I'm out in the water 2 or 3 times a week, right? And sometimes I get there at, let's say, 7 o'clock. I'm seeing young school age kids leaving the water with their parents in the morning. They've already been there at daybreak to put in their time
Yeah,
before they
yeah,
Mhm.
even go to school. And that's the coaching, that's
yeah,
the training that has to take place. Otherwise, we're behind the eight ball right from the beginning. These
yeah.
kids have been in the water since they were 5, 6 years old, already making it happen, right?
Right, right.
And these are some of the things that if it's not supported, it's not going to happen. And then
Right, right, right.
we even though we have the talent, we might have that talent later on. They're looking for that 12, 13, 15-year-old kid, not the 20-year-old kid, that
Yeah.
young
Yeah, yeah,
person
yeah,
that really surfs well because they know that they're already behind the eight ball. And so you don't get that sponsorship, you don't get the coaching. Nobody's going to give you a bunch of boards. Professional surfers go through a board every couple of weeks,
right,
Yeah.
right, right, right.
um, and sometimes the board a day, depending on where they're surfing, right? And that equipment, $1,000 a board, really, and wetsuits, and
Yeah.
and like you said, flight travel and all of these things. But these are the things that we, as a people, need to talk about. Just like we've done in other sports, we need to figure out how to
Yeah,
get behind these athletes
yeah.
and pool our resources and start to really hold them up.
So as you were speaking, it actually kind of got me thinking about about the store
Hmm.
and the reason why I opened Station, and wanted to see it kind of live is because I did see that there's that level of support just isn't there anymore. I mean, and it's probably not for a number of reasons, but part of the goal was to support. I'll say someone like Fermat or like a
Hmm.
Paul, if they were interested in becoming more serious, like really kind of saying, hey, you know what, I got this contest fee for you. You
Hmm.
know, here's a board at a super discounted cost because sometimes, and I started thinking about this sometimes a lot deeper, in our communities. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the families are single parent families, and mom can't afford to take that kid to the beach in the morning, right? Because she's got to get up, make dinner for one or two kids. I mean, breakfast for one or two kids, and then, um, um, get ready herself for work. So I think I can 100% agree with you that we need it would be nice to have something, whether it's on retail side or just some sort of organization that can maybe pick that kid up in the morning, make sure that they're in a safe space that they
Yeah.
can surf, and then get them back home, and mom feels comfortable or dad feels comfortable that that's someone that I trust, and the kid's going to go to school after. Like, I swam competitively for a while, and I mean that was the thing. Like, you were up early. Like,
Hmm.
there's no kind of after it. Like, you just get up, you go, and school, you do that, and then after school you come back, you train again. So I think that's something that would be amazing to see,
Yeah.
as your collective develops, but just in our community, surf communities in general.
Yeah, it's definitely a community, and we keep using the word community. And at the end of this, I want to say something about that because we keep using the word community, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a community thing. So, like, I remember growing up when by the time once I got a little older and I was able to go off and go down to the beach by myself and do whatever. So I was out there with my friends, just swimming back and forth, basically just being complete idiots, backflipping off the stone jetty and pretty much by God's will alone, we didn't crack our heads open. But now that I look back on it, at the time I thought, oh yeah, it's just me, I'm free, my parents aren't around, nobody's paying attention to us. But looking back on it now, there was always somebody looking. Somebody always had an eye out on us because I remember so many times people who knew my parents or people who didn't even know of my parents would come up and say, "Hey, when you do this, try it this way. Or when you're swimming, you'll tire yourself out more if you keep swimming like this. Try it this way." So that sense of community and just trying to keep it moving with people and so that we know that, like you said, Nigel, someone's out there watching out
Yeah,
for you
yeah,
and
yeah,
can get you. And Greg, like you said, having someone, you know, be able to bring the kids down to say, okay, yes, it's sunrise in New York on during the summer. I mean, summer waves aren't the best, but sunrise in New York during the summer is like 5:15, 5:30 in the morning. I've seen people out there with their kids, okay, we just no waves, let's just paddle back and forth. If this is what you want, this is what you got to
Right.
do. We're
yeah,
just gonna
yeah,
paddle
yeah,
back and
yeah,
forth, build those paddle muscles as we go.
yeah,
So it's really something I think that we can, as a community, again, here's that word, as a community, we can start to develop. And it's starting, but we still have a little bit of a
yeah.
distance to go with it. Greg, you spoke a little bit about the surf industry. And I had to smile because I'm not going to name any names or anybody's specific YouTube channel, but sometimes I look at some of these guys on and they're like, okay, they go to like the Paizel store or other stores. Like, yeah, I want that board, that board, that board, that board, that board. And they come down with like 19 different boards. And I do the math in my head. I'm like, that's roughly what, about $1,000 of, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. And just
Right.
me who has a job is like, I don't know if I can spend that much money on a board right now. I'll have to make do with the one I have, or
Right.
hit up somebody else. Say, hey, can you give me a discount on this one if I do this? But it's really, it can get really expensive. So the question I have is, what changes have you seen in the surf industry regarding diversity and inclusion since founding the collective, if any?
Unfortunately, Kwame, not enough, right?
Not enough.
Way right around the Black Lives Matter movement a few years back, you had a little more reach out, but I think it
Hmm.
was, I mean, let's be honest, it was really a knee-jerk reaction
Yes.
to
Right.
trying to look better by these companies, trying to capitalize on the movement, right?
Hmm.
But that all dropped away. And bottom line is, you look at the surf industry, you think there was no surfers of color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that bad. It's just, and the thing is, and Nate that puts on A Great Day in the Stoke, he always talks about this. The money is there. They just
Hmm.
don't look at us like we're a viable
Yeah.
resource, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we are spending the money. We are in the water. We're one of the largest growing demographics, but the surf industry doesn't see it, nor will they invest in it.
Hmm.
Right.
And we're that's why we're going to have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do a thing where we've asked people to donate their boards if they have old boards. We try to, and that can be a problem in itself. Where do you store all those old boards, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's got them. I don't have enough space in my yard to stack a bunch of boards, but I would love to be able to recycle and pass those on to young people or even older people that want to stay in the water. Um, but wetsuits, boards, whatever we can do to support people that, so we try to stay in touch with the people that do come out to our events regularly. And if it is something they want to do, we try to stay in touch with them and support them in getting them some equipment to keep them going and that kind of thing, and letting them know when we're going to have blackouts, as we call it, or make sure they come to the next Pan African Beach Day and come down and surf with us. It's not just for beginners. We want everybody to come down and be a part. But yeah, getting back to the industry, way behind,
Yeah.
way behind. It's like our numbers are growing, but there's no reflection of that.
It's funny you said that. I just had a thought that might get us canceled. So, so I'm thinking to myself when I'm listening to you say this, and you're right. Because, and again, I've had these conversations with people where we've pinpointed, but like, after what was it, summer of 2020? Yep, summer of 2020, everybody was like, oh yes, Black Lives Matter, black this, black that, people of color, da, 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 da. We were all over the place. We were everywhere. Advertisers couldn't get enough of the faces. And then as the time started, here we are in 2025, and it's like, oh, okay, it's not really a resource that we can use right now. So I'm saying, hold up a sec. So you're saying that people of color were not really your resource? That sounds very familiar from about 400 years ago, but hey, that's just me. Maybe it's just the way my mind works.
Yeah.
But no, and you are right. And Nigel, I know you've spoken with like people about
Yeah.
this as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my take on it is I see it from a couple different angles, especially because I've worked in the surf industry for a while. So I hear the sales meeting conversations and the boardroom conversations sometimes um, around what the goals are. And I think the surf industry as a whole, and it's starting to come to fruition now, right? Because it's kind of not collapsing, but it's this
Yeah.
whole thing happening where brands are falling off and and so on, and it's because I think, and I can tie this in a weird way here, um, they always go for where the money is, which I get it, right? You're a
Hmm.
business, you got to go for the
Yeah,
money, right?
it's a profit.
But
It's a profit.
they don't really pay enough attention to what the spark of that is, right? So yes, it is really cool, and this is, I'm just using Kelly Sater as a
Hmm.
name, to want to sponsor Kelly and have him because he's winning titles. He's like amazing, right? But the investment came by like Matt Keckley, right? Who gave him the board early on and when he was like 12 or you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I think what happens is that brands don't see that well enough. And if we're tying this all in, even if they did, Kelly needed to be there in the morning at 5 training so that
Yeah.
that happened. But I think the surf industry, again, I have a whole new perspective, or I've had it for a while, but my perspective, or just going forward, and everything that we do is, it's cool to want to sit at the table, but I'm cool with like just building a new table
Mm.
and creating what it is that we need to
Nice.
do. And
Nice.
that's been my MO, and that's why the store was so important to me, and that's why I'm going to make sure it gets back on, because I'm tired of asking for like scraps and
Hmm.
saying, because maybe I don't even like that food, right?
Yeah.
But we're eating it because that's what we're told to eat. But and I look at someone like Sal Masekela, who with the book and with what he's doing is saying, hey, surf looks like this too. And I'm like, exactly, you know. So yeah, I mean, I get the surf industry. They're always going to try to chase the dollar. They don't even pay attention to the fact that this movement is happening
Mm,
because it's not going to turn quickly enough for them. But I feel like we need to see it, and we need to invest, and we need to build brands around what we want to see in the water and the people that we support in the water. So I'm all for creating a table and going, hey guys, this is the table now. Like, how are we moving from here? So
yeah.
I don't know. That's just where my head has been, especially um, in 2025, where I mean, it's just obvious all the things that's
Yeah.
going on, you know?
I'm loving this
Yeah,
conversation. I'm like grabbing sound bites from both of you guys and everybody. So I'm loving this conversation. I'm sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
oh yeah, no, I mean I agree. The surf industry, unfortunately, is a reflection of the capitalist society in which we live, right? It
Right, right.
went from this underground movement,
Yep.
this really cool sport, and now it's gotten so big that it's really just another reflection of the capitalist business model.
Mm,
And that's unfortunate because it I get it. You're right. It is a business and people need to make money, but if that becomes the only focus, it starts
Right,
to lose
right.
its specialness, right?
Yep.
And I'm with you, man. I think we need to create our own table. We need to bring our own style to it. We need just like we do, man, every
Yes,
place else. We
yes,
got to bring
yes.
our own
Yep.
and we got to support our own, bring our own, make it our own.
Yes.
And that's what we've seen in LA with the movement that's been going on in the last 5, 6 years, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with the even in the pandemic, so many more young people of color took to the water that we've given them a home to come back to. They're instructing for us now. They're coming to our beach events, and it really shows. Right, we're doing it in a way that it's ours and it's so much fun. It's such a an amazing thing, and we get families and people coming back again and again, and even wanting to know what we're doing in the winter months because we stop in October because it's the water's getting cold and things, and people are like, no, 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 where are you guys at?
Yeah.
They want to be part of this community, and I think as long as this keeps building, we have to give it a place to be
Yeah.
home, right?
Yeah. 100%. 100% agree.
So with all, I mean, we've been speaking about this, and I think this we've actually covered this within some of the conversations we had, or some of the topics we covered. But are there any specific challenges that you and the collective have faced since inception? You know, that you'd like to, and how did you overcome them specifically? Because I know there are other people, there may be people listening to this who are like, oh, this sounds like a really good idea. I would hope that I encourage them to reach out to you and to you guys directly, but, they may just like decide, hey, how do I get a template for this? What challenges that could they have faced with this?
Man, for the first 10 years, Kwame, we were doing it out of our own pocket.
Mm,
So, my wife and I and the rest of the members, the core members of the collective, were just coming down, bringing our own equipment, doing what we could to make this happen. We were very fortunate enough for Gabaldon Day to get sponsorship from the County of Los Angeles and different places, but our core money that we were moving with was really our own. In the last 2 years, we're moving into our second year operating as a nonprofit, which opened up finances for us. We were able to apply for grants. We've gotten one large grant and another grant that just came through this year. We're very fortunate to have that and be able to now buy our own equipment, our wetsuits, our boards. We're going to be buying a trailer to move all of our equipment back and forth
nice.
because it's so hard. I mean, I'm driving down the road with 10 boards stacked on top of my car. You know what I mean? And getting that equipment and getting things, and that's going to be the hardest. But you can start small. That's the
Mm,
thing. If you put two people in the water or five people in the water, you can get two soft tops and a couple instructors and still make a difference. And that's really how we started. We started just at a grassroots level, and we've been fortunate enough to just grow slowly. And then in this last year and a half, we've taken a big jump. And I think that's really um, the thing that's keeping us alive right now. It's keeping us, and it's in. And as I talked about some of our future plans, it's allowed us to make those future plans. Right? We're not just what we've. Even though I'd be happy doing what we did do and what we have been doing over the last 10 years, I'm also really excited about moving forward. So I think just getting back to new organizations as they start, I think starting up, building a good core group of people that have your same interest and your same heart, and going out there and sharing your love of the water with young people, and making sure and giving them a supported entry level into the water with people that look like them, people that they can identify with, because we're overcoming a lot to get in the water, to get to the beach, and it's really important that we give them that support.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know that there's probably a lot that we still have to cover here, but like I always
No,
like to do,
no, go ahead, go ahead. I know we're coming close to time,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
so,
No.
so
I just always like to talk about the surfer, right? So, what are you surfing like? What's your surf routine like these days? How are you getting in the water? How often? What boards are you on? What's your thing?
Um, I just retired out of the fire service. I'm a little broken.
Okay,
Got
all
some
right,
some aches and pains, but I try to get out in the water 3, maybe 4 days a week when it's happening and when I'm in good health. I longboard in the summer, and then I ride like just like a 9.6 single fin, a little bit of a
okay,
concave in the nose that I purchased years ago, and I never really got into longboarding. And
gotcha.
so I'm really trying to work on that. It's a lot harder than you think it's going to be, right? I learned on a shortboard because I was a skater. And
Right,
so
right.
popping up as a young kid and making the board do what you were used to doing on the ground was a lot more simple than getting on a longboard and having to move around on it. It's a lot more weight, it's a lot more board. But I'm enjoying learning that. I have many boards, obviously, just like everybody else, but my regular board that I'm riding right now is a 7.2, kind of a mid-length twin pin kind of a shape,
Okay, all
which
right.
I really love. At my age, it's easier to paddle out. Not that easy to duck dive, but it's easier to paddle out and catch waves on, and I still have a good time. I'm kind of a down the line guy. I don't profess to be a really great surfer, but I just love being in the water.
Where are some of your favorite spots to surf?
Oh
I've been to
man,
LA a couple times, but I just know the regular go-tos. Like I've surfed, Topanga, and I've surfed I can think like County Line, and it's like Venice, obviously. But where are some of your favorite spots?
those are some of my spots too. I don't go to Topanga too much. It's pretty crowded. If I can
Yeah.
find it when it's less crowded. Also, Sunset Point
Oh
when
yeah,
it's
Sunset's
good is a
fun.
lot
Yeah.
of fun. Both of those points are pretty active. A lot of people go there, especially again since the pandemic. There's so many more people in the water. I have a buddy that lives up in Topanga, so I'll hook up with him, but we will go all the way to County Line just because it's a little more there's a couple spots up towards County Line and at County Line that I serve. I surf south of the Venice Pier. We do our lessons, our Pan African Beach days are at Dotwater, which is right out in front of LAX, just a little north of El Porto, north of Manhattan Beach, south of Marina Del Rey, right in there. And there's some nice little sandbars there. There's a bunch of old guys like myself every morning. So I tend to go out there and have some fun, and it's not too crowded, and I'll move around, as I need to. Head down to down to Orange County, down to Sano, Bolsa Chica, whatever, wherever things are happening. I'm lucky. I'm retired now, so I get
Yeah,
to
yeah, you have
venture
the
out a little
time.
more than I used to. So yeah.
That's good.
well, last question. What message do you have? Would you like to share with aspiring Black surfers or anyone who might be looking to support the Black Surfers Collective?
I'll start with aspiring Black surfers,
Hmm.
or any surfer of color, anybody that's new in the water. Keep doing it. Stay in the water. It's something I plan on doing until I got to pay some kid to drag my board out in the water. You know what I mean? I'm hoping to be 90 years old and still paddling in the waves. It's something that it's always been in my heart since I started, and I'm going to keep doing it. It keeps me active. It keeps me flexible, and we belong there. You know, our all of our history is in the water. And unfortunately, in this country and in other countries, we've been pushed away from the coastline. We've been pushed away from the water, and we need to reclaim that presence in that part of our lives and our culture. And I think if you're interested and there's an organization near you, go check them out. If you're in LA, come find us. We will make space for you and get you in the water and get you that experience, and it'll be supported. It'll be with people that can you can identify with, and then you can turn around and pay that forward, right? You can turn around and give that to somebody else, and that's really the motto that I live by. It's like I'm always paying it back. Somebody introduced me, somebody's helping me, and I'm always trying to help others to start up or get going or to uh, come and join. Um, as far as the Black Surfers Collective, you know, we're active in the community. We're going to continue to be active in the community. We're working with organizations like Outward Bound Adventures. We're working with uh, another group called One with the Ocean, uh, the YMCA's to provide free swim lessons. You know, again, we're overcoming things to get our people in the water.
Yeah.
We were having people come out and ask for surf lessons that didn't even know how to swim.
Oh yeah, we
And
you
or
know what
maybe they
that's
came
like.
from a right, and they didn't have a family that swam. So now
Hmm.
we turned around and we've been providing free swim lessons through the YMCA's and through some other groups. And then we bring those people out once they learn to swim. And now it's a much more comfortable, safe thing to do, right? To get them in the water. But we're overcoming so much. And then to get the young people from the surf movement to come out and help us as instructors, now we've overcome a whole nother stigma. You're not having to ask somebody that you can't identify with to help you. You're looking at somebody that you can absolutely identify with,
Right,
and
right.
they're like, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" No, no, no. You're going to be safe. Let's go play in the water first. Now we get on the board, and you know, and you're there, and you're giving them hugs, and you got these big smiles on their faces, and then they come back on the beach, and we're having a beach party, and you know, it becomes a whole family thing, right? And we're getting families come back. You know, we start off with the kid, and all of a sudden the next month, mom and dad want to get in the water. Or they bring their cousins, and you know, it's just that thing that's growing, and we're stoked, man.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. I know I said I was going to share this, and it's something that I actually realized this, or it pops into my head a few weeks ago, and I'm like, why didn't it ever come up to me before? But the word community, you can actually, well, I break it down into two sections. The first one is common, and the definition of common is shared by, coming from, or done by more than one. And then unity, the state of being united or joined as a whole. So when you put those two definitions together and you come up with the word community, which is what we've been speaking about
Mm.
for this entire time and what what we're trying to strive for, I think that just those two words in themselves put together gives us the perfect definition of community. And the reason why I'm bringing this up because I'm not this this is something that we do have our surf community, but it goes so much further than just surfing.
Yeah.
Greg actually helped me and my family out a lot this past with the LA fires. So, Greg, thank you so much for what you did for my relative who was displaced by the fires. I really appreciate it. He still talks about meeting you and talking to you and how great you guys are. So, and Greg is all the way over on the West Coast, and I'm here on the East Coast, and still that sense of community was hey, is this somebody who Kwame knows and is
Yeah.
I'm going to reach out my hand. I'm going to help him out. So mahalo, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure, brother.
Yeah, Kwame, and as you were talking about that, it's something that um, it's definitely community, but I have to definitely say it's surfing
Mm,
too, right? Because we spoke about this before, but it always dawns on me how true it is. When you're a surfer, your community is technically the world. Like,
Yep.
it's something that you do that's kind of cool and that it connects you with other surfers. When you see a guy in the airport and you're going on some sort of business trip and he has a surfboard in your head, immediately you're
Like,
like, you have no problem
yep.
walking over to him and go, hey,
Where
where
you
you
going?
headed? Right? Like, and I think that that's one thing I love about the surf community. And yes, there's some, like some divisions here or there, but I'm pretty positive that there's this universal language of brotherhood that is surfing.
And sisterhood.
Huh?
And
And
sisterhood.
sisterhood, exactly. That is surfing that, if I know, and Adrian will kill me for this. Whenever someone says, hey, I'm going to Barbados, I'm like, talk to Adrian, right?
Yeah.
And Adrian like takes him under their wing and he gets to show him around. And if I'm there, I feel like we always have that. So it's something that I appreciate a lot with the surf community. And as you were telling your story, I started to think if Greg played golf and you were
Hmm.
a surfer, would the connection be the same and helping out? Yes, because you were maybe friends, but I'm sure that surfing
Yeah.
bond ties it a lot, tighter together.
Yes.
So
Yes.
no, it's just something that I was thinking of while you were speaking,
No. Hmm.
that I find to be true.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. There's a connection with the water that is, I don't know, it
yeah,
crosses all boundaries, right? Even people that you might not even have anything in
right.
common with. You
Yeah,
can find something to talk about if you're both like you said, especially in the airport
Hmm.
yeah,
or rolling down the street, you see
something.
somebody roll down the window, hey, where'd you go out today?
Exactly,
How are the
exactly.
waves? I haven't been out for a while or whatever it is. And that connection, it crosses all boundaries. One of the things I wanted to mention before we go is that, we talked about Nick and then we talked about me surfing in the 70s. There
Hmm.
was a whole list of brothers that surfed through the early 60s and into the 70s and into the 80s in LA that were competitive, that were part of the surf movement in LA, that surfed with the giants, the people that we've all heard of
Hmm.
that we didn't even know that I didn't know existed, but
Hmm.
I've since come to meet them. And myself and David Mesfin, the creator of Wade in the Water, we are at this time trying to put together some time to actually interview these cats
Oh, wow.
Epic.
and
Yeah,
get their
yeah,
stories because they're all in their 70s now and if you don't Rick Walker always says if you
Yeah.
don't get it on film or take a
yeah,
picture, it never really happened, right?
Yeah.
And so we know that they're not going to tell our story.
right.
They're
Right.
not going
Right.
to tell our story. We have to tell our story. And that history is huge. I was at one of our events and somebody asked me how, other than Nick, when did the first brothers in LA surf? And there was a guy that I knew in the crowd. And I said, hey, Don, when did you start surfing? He goes, oh, I started in 62. And
Wow.
I
Mm.
looked and I said, man, I was born in 62, right? And
Yeah,
I'm 60 years old.
yeah.
So this guy's been in the water a long time. And so we've been in this water a long time. We've been competitive surfers. We've been in the water making our place in the surf community in at least the Los Angeles area since that time. And we can't let that go, man. We got to keep it going and take our place. So
Oh, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see what you guys do with that info because that's something I would pay
Yeah.
good money to go see. Um,
100%.
just because I love that era of
No,
surfing
absolutely.
anyway, but just to see like, hey, it's something that's really sad about the state of affairs in the country now. Not to leave on a political note,
Hmm.
but I don't understand how people don't get how important just all history is
Hmm.
when you're in a place, like yes, I mean, like one of my icon surfers was always Tom Curran, and I know that kind of history. I know some guys older, but I would love to know about guys that were in the water and seen photos of them,
Hmm.
kind of like at these iconic spots that look like me. I mean, think about the impact that would have on just my generation,
Yeah.
but also like future generations and
Future
go, oh,
generations would love to see that.
we've been doing this. Like you almost feel like, okay, I belong at the table now, right? Like it's not like I'm trying to find a spot. It's like, no, no, I helped build this table
Hmm.
too. So, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I would love to see that and
No,
see and
100%.
and see what you guys do with that.
So,
Because we didn't know of any black surfers when we were growing up in the
No,
70s, we looked to the brothers that were in Hawaii. So you had Larry
right,
Bertlemann,
right,
you
mm,
right,
had
yes,
right.
Buttons,
yes.
you had Marvin Foster.
Yep, yep,
Some of
yep.
these are mixed brothers with
Yes, yes,
Hawaiian,
yes,
but some are
yes.
just Hawaiian cats that look like brothers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you look to what you can identify with.
Yeah.
And we emulated their moves in our skating. And so when we started to surf, it was already like in our blood, right? We saw them doing what we wanted to do. And I wish I had known that these brothers that
Yeah.
were around in those days. It's just, and they grew up right here in the Los Angeles area where I live. I just didn't know them, you know. They were a little older than me, and if it's not in your group of friends, you know, you just do what you do. And so it's really cool to know that they've been here all along and that I get to actually drink from their fountain just a little bit.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think we are at the point now where we're going to wrap up. So Greg, thank you so much for joining us today. And I think that we could have sat down and talked surfing for like another hour or so, because I definitely can sit down and speak with you. Because I remember the first time you and I had a conversation, we were at dinner, and there might have been like 15 of the people there, just like talking, talking, talking. And I was like, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. So let's talk. And we just like had this conversation because the food came and we were still talking. People left, we were still speaking. So, every single time you and I talk, I love talking with you. So thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you, W2F Studios, again for having us here, letting us use your space. Wolf, thank you as always, brother, for being our engineer on this. Thank you to our viewers and our listeners. Oh, we did get our first comment in the other day. It was more of a comment towards me because they said Mr. Labasia should try winter surfing a little bit more. Okay. First of all, Mr. Labasia. Second of all, I do winter surf. He's the one who doesn't winter surf.
No.
I go out in the winter.
No, no.
Nigel doesn't like winter surfing.
Yeah.
So no, not. But
No,
to, to
I will winter surf,
mhm.
but I am from the Caribbean and that blood is still in me. So I mean, when it's good, I'll go out. But I don't, and I'll get better at it,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's perfectly fine. Winter surfing is fun. But I want to say to that person who
Mhm.
asked the questions, I enjoy winter surfing. Enjoy is a strong word. I will
I'll
winter
do it.
surf exactly when the waves are good, but I'm just particular about the conditions when it's
Mm.
cold out,
No, no, I
That's it.
100% get
That's
that
it.
because it's a lot different between 1 to 2 feet and it's 90 degrees outside, and
Yeah.
1 to 2 feet and it's
Yes,
30 degrees outside.
exactly.
That's two completely different,
Exactly. Exactly.
completely different sessions.
Yeah. But we love the questions. Definitely keep the questions
Yes, please.
coming, and we'll answer them as best as we can.
Yeah, actually, for the next one, I believe it's going to be just Nigel and I.
Yeah.
So, please send
Yeah.
in as
Yeah.
many questions as you want, and
That's a
me
good
and I
one.
will sit down and we'll go
We'll
through
hash it
this.
out.
But until then, thank you again, everyone, so much for sticking with us and listening and seeing this on YouTube. So again, do your part, leave a heart, subscribe, do
Yep.
whatever,
Like,
all that
share.
YouTube share, blah 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 stuff, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the water.
Yep.
And Greg, I'm just going to ask you, where can people find out more information about the collective?
Oh, thank you. The boss would have been a little yeah. You can find us at Instagram, Black Surfers Collective, Facebook, Black Surfers Collective, and we have a website, blacksurferscollective dot org.
Okay.
So you can find us on any of those. Our schedule will be there. You can donate. We're going to be putting on events. We have Nick Gabaldon Day, beginning of June, and then every month after that, the first weekend of the month, we have our beach days at what we call our Pan African Beach Days at Dotweiler, where we put as many as 50, 60 people in the water, and we finish up with a beach party.
Okay.
So please come down and join us.
All right. So it's Black Surfers Collective on Instagram. What was the second one?
Facebook,
Facebook. And
and we have our own website, blacksurferscollective.org.
excellent. Okay. Yeah. So if you are interested, please, please, please hit them up. Even if you're not interested, please go hit them up because some of the stuff that you see on there is pretty cool. Just if you want to make your day just a little better, go to the website and look at the smiling faces because you cannot stay upset when you see happy people. So again, Greg, thank you so much, brother.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg.
Take care.
All right. So I think that covered it.